Good Friday to everybody in Com 785. Welcome to the first week of class content video. How's everybody doing? All right, in this video, we're going to have two videos per week. Excuse me. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the material that we'll be covering, both in terms of focus and actual material like pages, why it is we're delving into that, and some of the things that I want you to watch out for. All right. So for this first week, we're going to be doing a very brief introduction to the history of public relations in the 20th and the 21st century, and with readings and videos to accompany. Okay. So if you watch the other video on, what you need for the first week, you will see that you need to make sure that you at least have this book in your hand, right, of the five. But for the first week, we're gonna take a look at how it is that public relations develops as a field in the United States in the early 20th century. So we're going to be reading the first chapter from Stuart Ewan's PR, A Social History of Spin. This is an excellent book, by the way. It doesn't require that you get it. But if there would be something that I would get that book. And chapter number one is focuses on the figure of Edward Bernays. Now, as part of the material for week one, I've included a link in the course content folder to a BBC documentary called The Subconscious Marketing Propaganda to Public Relations that focuses on Bernays. Now, there have been, important figures in the development, the early history of public relations. Littman is one, Gallup is one, but if you had to pick one, because you only have a limited amount of time, Bernays would be it. He was so tremendously influential in shaping PR that then, as you'll see in the documentary, that flows into business practices, and then that flows over into governance. All right. If you had to pick a theme, outside of we're going to be getting this brief history, I would say that the theme for this week is I'm gonna make a proposition here to you. I believe that our field of communication, we have a deficit, we have a divot to fill in, because the beginnings of our industry, of our business, of our academy, they're dark and nefarious. There's just no other way to put that. All right. The early days of communication study were focused significantly, and in some sectors almost exclusively, around what are the best means by which to manipulate the public. Not study, how it is these communication modes unfold, or the whys and wherefores. No. How can we, without their knowledge, control people's desires and actions? And a lot of the data and the research and the theories that we have in communication studies flow out of that activity. And in my mind, you may disagree, and that's fine. We've incurred a debt as communication scholars in the early 21st century. We need to fill in for that. Okay. But first things first, you need to have an awareness of where this stuff came from. So I have, this is not a book I've required you to buy. I've copied and put the chapter of PR in there. There's the link to the BBC documentary, okay? And then from Wilson's work, which is one you're supposed to have. All right. The final piece that I want you to read for this coming week is a review of Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. Okay. Why would I have you read a review of this book? Because although the beginnings of public relation and related communication start in the 20th century, and they have some pretty nefarious origins, and although there was a serious and concerted development of the study of communication and the theories that surround communication, and a concentrated effort to use communication for the general public good, just by way of informing people this is how we do what we do. There has been of late, within the last 20 years, a resurgence of the use of communication for, there's no other way to put it than raw power and manipulation. And this seemingly unassuming figure of Robert Greene, I mean, he's not an imposing man. He's had a stroke. He's a bit of a slight man, has been right out at the forefront. All right. Now, I'm not requiring that you get this book. I'm not even necessarily recommending it. All right. But let me just read to you very quickly a passage here. This is from the introduction of 48 Rules of Power. Power requires the ability to play with appearances. To this end, you must learn how to wear many masks and keep a bag full of deceptive tricks. Deception and masquerade should not be seen as ugly or immoral. Oh, indeed. All human interactions require deception on many levels. In some ways, separates humans from animals in our ability to lie and deceive. In Greek myth and Indian mythological cycles and Middle Eastern epics, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, it is the privilege of the gods to use deceptive arts. A great man, Odysseus, for instance, was judged by his ability to rival the craftiness of the gods, stealing some of their divine power by matching them in wit and deception. Deception is a developed art of civilization and the most potent weapon in the game of power. Now, Greene is an interesting figure to me because he wrote this book. It was published back in the 90s. And he's like, well, I'm not saying this is how you should go through life and communicate with people. I'm just saying this is how people do it. It's kind of like O.J. Simpson. I didn't murder my wife, but if I did it, this is what I did. It's like, oh, come on. So each chapter, each law, there's a chapter dedicated to each law, but and he has sort of a shorthand version of the law in the table of contents. Let me just give you a quick read. Okay. Law number 1, never outshine the master. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. Law number 2, never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Law number 3, conceal your intentions. Law number 4, always say less than necessary. Law number 5, so much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Law number 6, court attention at all costs. Law number 7, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit, and so on and so forth. There's been this, and this work, and Greene has become just a star in the corporate world, in the music world, and all throughout the private sector. So I'm bothered that there has been a resurgence of this sort of just blatant bare knuckle use of communication technique for the purpose of manipulation. All right. So it is back. You may encounter it, or you may already be encountering it where you work or somewhere that you work. And I'm in no way, this is tremendously immoral and not within the scope of what we do as Christian communicators. But as master craftsmen, as doctors of the art of communication, you need to know about these current trends. So in the course content folder, in the optional section, so I always have the required section. This is what we're going to be doing this week, so you must get through this material. Then optionally, I've included a link to an interview done by Dr. Jordan Peterson with Robert Greene, in which he discusses the 48 Laws of Power and how it came about, and the kind of impact that it's had, and his interaction with great figures of business, people in the music world, like the rap artist 50 Cent, and where it's taken him. Okay. So this is a sort of a continuation of what you'll find out if you don't know already about Bernays. Those of you who've had 710, this will be material that you've seen before, but a different context. So, I realize the video is 4 hours, so you can break it into sections if you like, but, watch it again as a refresher course and read those 2 chapters that are included in there in strategic communications and then in PR, history of spin. Okay. So for the first week, brief introduction to the history of public relations, some of its dark and murky past, where it's at in the present, and a discussion of our obligation as Christian professionals to navigate communication, both in terms of how it's practiced, whether it's PR marketing or not-for-profit, and how it's taught. Okay, so I will have questions posted in Blackboard by Sunday night, all right, for you to start taking a look at. And so make sure you get the text, get the reading, start looking at the video, and I will see everybody on Blackboard come Monday. God bless. Bye-bye.